Wearing my Seb's Jazz Club Los Angeles top today because we're speaking about Brawl in Cell Block 99, which is a very violent and scary film, so I need a safety blanket in the form of La La Land to protect me from all the dangers in the world. So basically, if you haven't gathered, I watched Brawl in Cell Block 99 the other day. I didn't like it, and not because it was a bad film, but because I'm a massive wimp, basically. I wasn't actually going to do a video on this, but I was speaking to One Minute Critic on Instagram. He also has a channel and loads of cool social media that you should definitely check out if you haven't already, but I'm almost 100% sure you have. He was like, you should totally do a video on it, and I was like, I'll give it a shot. The reason I wasn't going to do a video on this film is because basically I watched half of this film behind my hands, stressed out, hiding my eyes, covering my ears, trying to avoid all the violence and gore. If I wasn't hiding behind my hands when watching this film, the TV was on mute and the subtitles were on, which for my mum, who was watching the film with me, was very annoying. I didn't like the violence, didn't like the gore, but the story was alright. This film is not for the faint-hearted. And that's me, I'm faint-hearted, I hate gore, so I really don't know why, especially after talking to a lot of you guys who said this film was very graphic, why I thought I'll go out, pay £7 to own the DVD to keep and watch it. That wasn't my best idea. So as I said, the violence is very graphic in this film. It's actually not that bad until about 3/4 of the way through when all hell breaks loose. So when watching it, I was thinking, oh my god, this isn't as bad as people are making out. Like, I'm so tough. But towards the end, I wanted to quit. I wanted to get out of this film. I thought, this violence is too much for me. And I understand that it needs to highlight what life is like in a high security prison, the violence and corruption that goes on in these sorts of environments, and how it's a place you definitely don't want to be. But I just thought it was a bit excessive. Was it really that necessary to show all of that? I don't know. It's stuff of nightmares, truly, which is why I'm glad that my eyes were closed for like 99% of it, because I wouldn't have been able to sleep at night seeing those images. I made my mum watch it, and then she told me what happened. I'm a very brave, nearly 20-year-old woman that needs her mum to watch scary films for her. What I'm saying is that I think this film was definitely out to shock people, which it did, but there's a way of showing things without necessarily showing it, and I think in some scenes this film would have benefited from that, in my eyes anyway, but it definitely makes it one to remember, so it's a hard one. I find it difficult to judge. This is why I didn't know if I'd do a video, because just because I don't like that level of violence doesn't mean it shouldn't exist. Obviously some people would love it, and I'm slightly scared of them. If it was just for the violence, I would have turned this film off within the 3/4 mark, but the one thing that kept me half watching like this, I wanted to know what was going to happen to the characters. It's kind of inevitable in a way. I wanted to see how it was going to unfold, and I needed to see the ending. I wanted to know what happens to these characters just before the credits roll. And so I stuck at it, kind of. I listened. One thing this film did teach me though is that I never want to bump into Vince Vaughn in a dark alley. Or any alley. Or anywhere. He is terrifying. The performance was incredible. That's probably my favourite part of this film. I'm used to him in comedies, but he was incredible in this role. A really troubled character. A man forced to do things he doesn't want to do but has to do for the sakes of his family. That really came across in his performance, the sort of inner torment, the sort of psychological damage this man is going through by being in these prisons and the prison system. I don't really know what to make of the story. It was definitely compelling enough to make me watch the whole thing, stay till the end, but I wouldn't say it was anything I hadn't really seen before. But I did think the twist with the wife was really interesting and sick, vile, disgusting. This is definitely a story that shocks you. I think the story is a warning against all sorts of crime and definitely against violence. Those are some situations I never want to be in. If Vince Vaughn can't cope in prison, then neither can we, is what I'm saying. So aside from the violence that I hate, which really did put me off the film unfortunately, it wasn't a bad made film, it was actually really well made. The cinematography I thought was really, really interesting, especially in the first act of the film. Everything was captured in a really straightforward manner, and I think that sort of highlights the harshness of life. It really helps put you in that mindset, ready for what you're about to experience in the rest of the film. I can only really speak about the score in the first half of the film because, as I mentioned, I did watch the rest of the film on mute with the subtitles, and the subtitles don't really describe the score, but they do, in brackets, nicely say bone cracking. To summarise, Brawl in Cell Block 99 wasn't a bad film. You can see where its popularity and controversy came from last year, but it really wasn't for me. This film wasn't my favourite. I definitely won't be watching it again, ever. But Vince Vaughn's performance was really good, and he deserves recognition for that. So I don't want to write off the film. Please go and watch it if you're tough. and don't mind gore. If you don't like gore, I do not recommend. Also, did I mention there's no dog today? My baby. He didn't want to be on the bed today. He wanted to be in his bed down there. And basically, I'm not going to make him do anything he doesn't want to do because he runs this house. I've got violence on the mind. Everything I'm talking about, I just keep bringing up the violence.